The Ministry of Community Development and Social Services has launched the Streets Outreach Guidelines to challenges faced by children living and working on the streets. Ministry of Community Development and Social Services Minister Doreen Mwamba says the guidelines aims to provide a structured and systematic approach to supporting children in the streets situation. Rosemary Kamanga has details in this report.
In a significant step towards protecting Zambia's most vulnerable children, the Street Outreach Guidelines have officially been launched. Community Development and Social Services Minister Doreen Mwamba says the guidelines are meant to provide a structure in dealing with street kids and related matters.
These children, our children living on the streets, are exposed to health risks, sexually transmitted infections, cholera, malaria, and even death.
The ministry's permanent secretary says it is important for children to grow up in a home.
Every child, regardless of their background, their socioeconomic status, their race and religion, and any other attribute, has the right to grow up under a roof with and within a family.
And Inspector General of Police Grafel Musamba was represented at the event by Zambia Police Director for Community Services Joseph Shanampota.
They support structured programs and intervention that provide lasting solutions. Together we can turn our compassion into meaningful change.
Meanwhile, UNICEF has expressed confidence that the guidelines will help strengthen child protection system.
The minimum standards being launched today will further strengthen the child protection system to provide continuum of care and protection across all relevant contexts for children in street situations.
And Home of Hope Foundation Director Tasek Rakowski has called for a solution to the challenge of children on the streets.
People who keep enabling, they are not there when we have to identify the body in mortuary. Those are not the people who will go and notify parents. This is done by people who work day and night for decades, from civil society, from ministry, from child protection unit, victim support unit.
Rosemary Kamanga, ZNBC News, Lusaka.
And in the studios, we're joined by Rebecca Chipoya, the chairperson of the Joining Forces Alliance. The Alliance is a consortium of 5 organizations that deal with matters of children. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on the news desk.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Right now, what do you make of this outreach guidelines that has been launched to protect those children living on the streets?
For us, it is a big milestone for the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, for the country, for the NGOs working in Zambia, CSOs. It's a milestone. The issue of street children has been with us for several decades now. And the guidelines do give us a platform to collaborate, to work together, so that we have concerted effort in trying to address the issue of children on the streets. And so you find that the guidelines do give platform for us to establish best practices in trying to handle children on the streets, but also provides for comprehensive resources for those stakeholders or players in the sector who will be able to deal with issues of children in street situations. But also we see that the manual gives us a good direction on how to do case management. Right. It's very, very important that cases of involving children in such situations are handled professionally and, gotten to conclusions in professional manner. So it also gives us a platform to foster collaboration between government and all other stakeholders, including the NGOs, to be able to work together to try and tackle the issue of children in the streets.
Right, that brings me to the issue of the community members. How do they effectively report these incidences to the police?
Thank you. So community members need to be alert. You know, as community members, the public, we are part of the problem because we are the enablers of children finding themselves on the streets. We give arms. Tomorrow the child will come back to come and get some more arms. We buy food from the children. We are encouraging child labor. So as members of the community, we need to be alert, report when such matters are happening, or we are able to see, we are able to stand up, talk, so that together we can protect this child. The children are not supposed to be on the streets. Right. They're supposed to be in homes, safe and loving homes.
Exactly. Now, what is your role as an organization when it comes to the role that you're going to play in implementing these guidelines?
Thank you. So as Joining Forces Alliance for Children in Zambia, our role will be to interpret the manual, the guidelines to communities and all those that we work with, partners, community structures, CBOs, faith-based organizations. We reach out and we work in partnership with those. So our role is to ensure that we interpret the guidelines to those partners we'll be working with, but also ourselves as we are conducting our own activities, supporting and complementing government in its efforts. We are able to do the good job given the guidelines that the ministry has produced.
Well, that in mind, are there any programs in the civil society organizations and NGO space that has been put in place to provide rehabilitation centers for these children that are in need?
Thank you. So there are quite a number of activities that as CSOs we get ourselves into to kind of supplement and support government efforts. So we have organizations that have emergency shelter. So where there is need to provide emergency shelter for a child, that is given. But we also have programs in terms of basic needs, supply of basic needs for children that have been identified to be in need. There are organizations that offer education, vocational skills, but also much of our work is on advocacy and raising awareness. If everyone in Zambia could understand the impact of having children on the streets, I'm sure all of us will fight together.
Well, Ms. Tipoya, thank you so much for having featured on the news desk and just amplifying more on these guidelines that has been launched by the Minister of Community Development and Social Services.
Thank you.
And Speaker of the National Assembly, Nelly Muti, has expressed concern over the rising crime rates among children in the country. Ms. Muti says there is need for parents to take responsibility by imparting good morals in their children. Speaking during the ceremonial opening of the High Court's criminal session in Mongo, Western Province, Ms. Muti said there is need to reform the current legal framework dealing with child offenders. And Judge in charge of Western Province, Justice John Mbuzi, shared Ms. Muti's concern, citing the inadequacy of laws in addressing child offenders. This is according to a statement issued to ZNBC News in Lusaka by the National Assembly of Zambia